All right, hell yeah. So we flushed out this, so we have that bottom, and then hell yeah. And so we still need to flip it over and then tape that side. And then we'll be able to put the top on just like that. So we at least have the front points, and then we can start figuring out where we want to sit as the cockpit. But you know what I mean. We can also. I mean, we're gonna fully wrap this because at the back, I'm not interested in climbing in. You know what I mean. I definitely wanted to leave this as an option to be. Hey, could you climb up and over? You know, especially if you just left like right here and then stair stepped up. Then you could actually get a knee in here, and that would be pretty sweet. And then this would be the only thing, you know what I mean, probably from here to there, probably that line right there, where you could actually get a knee up there. And then that's the only place that would actually ender, you know what I mean, if you were in a playboat. And that's actually probably all you need because that's a huge spatula. And that's the other thing is just like I thought it would be sweet to go to a small hole in an R1 boat and then just do big enders, you know, so you'd ender and then pirouette, and or just do big enders. You know what I mean? That's the untapped currently, and yeah. And what's happening is that the bow is too big where you're going to bite up here and then it's just going to carry you through and you never get vertical. You know what I mean? You need a hinge. You need the water to build right there, hinge, and then go instantly vertical. And then also have these tubes, you know what I mean? These points that can act as sponsons or balance that out. And then you got your 3 points of contact. When that bites, these dig in farther. And then maybe you could have that be stable. And there's an off chance where, you know what I mean, if I sit and use this as the back quadrant, you know, maybe I can actually lean back on this just because it's so rockered out of the water and, you know, like go into an eddy line and then, you know, and then do stern squirts from there. So there's an opportunity to do stern squirts with two ends just because we have so much rocker ability. All right, hell yeah. All right, hell yeah. So what we did is we put three, or I guess two more layers of duct tape on either side of those, on all of those, and we stretched it tight. You know what I mean? So hopefully that kind of holds it together crosswise and lengthwise. And then we did two wraps all the way around just to hold that floor in place because it's, you know, it just needs tension, kind of like a band all the way around there to hopefully hold that foam in there because, hell yeah, because, you know what I mean? Because that foam isn't attached to the ends, and then all of these are just attached literally directly to yeah. Well, I guess it is attached. It's got 4 inches of leverage. So we do have thick cardboard from the bike boxes, and it comes up 4 inches, and that's what we taped over. And then we kind of have it taped on the other side, but that joint is very weak. All right, hell yeah. All right, hell yeah. So I'm done for the night, but we did get that fleshed out. And so I guess I just have one more panel to make on that. I didn't realize that. But hell yeah. And then we can spend, you know, a good part of the day working on that back end. But we have this and we have that. And let's get a profile. And so I just think this makes sense. You know what I mean? Like this should have as much rocker as a kayak. And I think it doesn't even look like it has that much rocker, but the second that you're actually angled on that back surface, this could come up out of the water. So you're able to put this bow wherever you want, which also means that you can dig it in too. And so that's pretty sweet. But then to have these, release the corners, but then also have sponsons just in case, because, you know what I mean? Whitewater is three-dimensional. And if you're going into a big hole, those can slice into the top part of the hole and then maybe skip your way through. And maybe a combination of like punching, holding, And then there could be a benefit to this actually stabbing, especially if you're jumping to the front. But that's 3 points of contact. So if you do land in a hole, these 2 points and then that provide that 3 points of contact. My boat, what would happen is I would jump to the front, and then the stern would spin out sometimes. And so I just think it'd be beneficial to have these 3 points of contact to really dive into that hole and to release the stern from doing what it's doing. So that huge rocker, I think, is a benefit, especially going into holes, especially weighting the bow. So hell yeah. All right, we're going to be done for tonight. And yeah, so that stern. And then check this out. So we have 7 feet 6 inches. So it's 7.5 feet. Even though it looks really big, it's just the width. The width, makes sense. That was from the testing the 2 kayaks and being kind of bummed out. But then I realized, nah, don't get bummed out, because literally those are the 2 kayaks right there. So we're still experimenting with a V rocker, but you just have your normal sponson boat, which is a typical R1. And so, hell yeah. And the width isn't even 5 feet. So the width is from there to there, we got 4 feet 9 inches. So it is narrower than R1 boat. Now underfoot is substantially narrow, because we're working on making these 60-degree corners. You know what I mean? So, and we showed that in the other video, where if we put up onto edge, it will rock back. And so let's do the test, because that was the idea, is if this goes up onto this edge. Whoa. Sorry about that. Okay, so this edge is more flat. Yeah. So this was the smaller tube, and it definitely has more of a flat edge. So when it's here, the boat doesn't have too much of a tendency. The boat can almost rest there. Where this edge, we showed that from the other day. And it might have been just, I don't know. But yeah, when it was on this edge, which was more tapered, then the boat really wanted to right itself. And so this one, but at least these edges are flat, you know what I mean? Which seems to make sense. If you are going to lay it over, might as well lay it over on another flat surface. Instead of a rounded surface, the second you have a torque that will rotate and pivot on that rounded surface, there's nothing to stop that rotation. All right, so hell yes, we did pretty good. And thanks for joining me. Booyah.